on the left, people aren't judged for their promiscuous endeavors, right? Their sexual conquests. Like, so like a guy can be like, oh yeah, I like getting pegged. I like that. And leftists are like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe like TMI. But that's like at worst. As we'll say it's like TMI. But on the right, people have to hide it. They have to slink away. There. Oh no, what if somebody knows? What if somebody finds out? Like, but it's not like, let's not pretend like, there's like some kind of culture. There's some kind of pegging culture with the left. Okay, there isn't. You think fucking Christy Nome wasn't pegging her man? Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, bro.
She constantly degrades him because
he's so for real. They were married for like 10 years.
It's
Welcome back. It's the J-Star broadcast. We are watching Leaflit. This video is called Society is Falling. Oh boy.
Let's talk about how did this come up in your stream? How did your audience start talking about polyamory?
Okay, this is okay. So there was a big drama in the VTuber world recently, where a VTuber made a post, and they were talking about how they have a husband, like they're actually married, but then they also have a boyfriend. And so they were talking about like this setup that they have, and so they posted it. And then, naturally everybody, on the conservative VTuber front, were like, you're disgusting. And so so there was like a back and forth there. And so that turned into me getting messages from friends who were like, oh my gosh, Leaflit,
why should we care?
This? And so I was looking at it and I was like, okay, well, and I think it turned into a, not really polyamory, but like a polygamy thing, where they were talking about polygamy from like a religious angle. And I was like, okay, wait, but like, is it actually bad? And that's where it went into that conversation.
Okay, so yeah, there's so many interesting things to be said here. What was I going to say about the poly?
Chat says, of course it's bad. See, but that's why I want to know. That's why I want to explore it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gathering my thoughts.
Not polyamory, but I want to explore why people think it's bad.
So, there's sort of two things to think about here. One is it's interesting that like we've reached a point in terms of like.
You see, to me, there's like nothing to think about here. It's like, okay, people be doing shit in their personal lives that has no effect on me in the slightest. Or anyone else, or any of these fucking people. Why does this matter?
Victories that people are even acting like this is a thing. Like, remember when Destiny's like wife or girlfriend was like, "I'm just gonna go sleep with this guy while you're doing your stream," and then there's that dead look in his eyes. And everybody, the left was still like standing him during that moment, right?
Yeah.
Is this person like? Why was this event? Was this a right-wing streamer, or is this like a left, or even leftists thinking this is stupid now?
No. It was. I don't actually know the politics of the person. I'm gonna. If I had to guess, like if I had to bet on it, I would say that they were a left-wing VTuber, but it was the right-wing VTubers that were like, you're disgusting.
Okay, well, so somebody says he wants to be iDubbbz. iDubbbz is my hero. I want to have a relationship like his. I think that is the ideal of a husband-wife relationship. That we should all be striving for.
I don't know anything about these people.
Wait, you don't?
I mean, it works for them.
Horror of iDubbbz's life?
No, like, I don't. No.
iDubbbz's life is an existential horror beyond. His wife is constantly talking about wanting to peg him. Like oh my god, you guys.
Yeah, like
you need to. iDubbbz like comes off as somebody who like he chose the woke side. He chose the Hassan side. Mm-hmm. He was part of the original like internet skeptic, wider like early internet community.
Not really. He just made funny videos and he said some slurs. Right? He made comedy videos. He interacted with his community. But anyway, these guys constantly bring up, like, iDubbbz and his wife. And, like, I don't know, man. It seems to be working. Right? Like, I don't really care. Anyway. If his fucking marriage works out. But, like, they're constantly like, oh, yeah, she, like, has a OnlyFans. She has a OnlyFans. or she like used to. I don't know. But they're just like they recycle this shit over and over again. It's like, well, okay, well, they're like still married, right? They seem to have a every time they're recorded together, they seem to have like a a positive relationship, a good aura around them, right?
And then he married
Who cares, though?
this OnlyFans girl, and basically destroyed his.
Well, she was. I think she started the OnlyFans after they got married, right? So like, it was something they probably both talked about.
Ability in his life, and you can't even like be mad at him anymore. You're like, oh god, like I'm. No.
Somebody in Leaflet's chat said, iDubbbz betrayed his friends at H3H3. His friends, huh? What friends exactly? Ethan?
Enough. Like,
you serious?
I disagree with your politics, but like, enough. This is not good.
Leaflet's fans are insane, man.
And the thing is,
they really
like,
are.
I don't even think like the woman he's married to is trying to like actively, whatever her name is, people will say her name, Anesia, is trying to be mean to him or anything. They're living by the cultural values that the left has normalized.
Yeah.
And she tries to support him within that cultural value system, but it just looks horrifying and sad.
Why? You haven't explained why. Because she makes jokes about pegging him, or maybe she actually does peg him. Like, who cares? Who cares? Okay. Plenty of men on the right be gay. Like, he's saying that this is like a leftist thing. It's not. It's not. It's just like I'm not gonna act like it's extremely common, right? Or like normal. Like he's saying, it is on the left. People aren't judged for their promiscuous endeavors, right? Their sexual conquests, like. So like a guy can be like, oh yeah, I like getting pegged. I like that. And leftists are like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe like TMI. But that's like at worst. We'll say it's like TMI. But on the right, people have to hide it. They have to slink away. There. Oh no, what if somebody knows? What if somebody finds out? Like, but it's not like. Let's not pretend like. There's like some kind of culture. There's some kind of pegging culture with the left. Okay, there isn't. You think fucking Kristi Noem wasn't pegging her man? Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, bro.
She constantly degrades him because
he's so for real. They were married for like 10 years.
It's in mainstream media. You go and watch a leftist sitcom, and the wife will constantly be degrading the husband. That's considered normal.
Do you think that's made trans people?
But okay, so let's go back to polyamory. Okay.
Okay.
So first, we're gonna need to make a few divisions here. All right.
Okay.
One man having multiple female sexual partners, and one woman.
Oh shit, my bad. I forgot to speed it up.
And women date each other and have multiple external partners.
Okay.
This second scenario, what we call modern polyamory, is basically not practiced anywhere in human history. It's not practiced in many tribes that we've seen. It's not practiced in any widespread successful society. It's basically a complete historical anomaly, and we can get to it right now. Now, one man with multiple women, that is actually the historic norm. If you're talking about tribes, it's 86% of them form this pattern. That said, the tribes that choose monogamy or not choose but evolve monogamy end up out competing them. Almost every successful society on Earth has been monogamous.
Why is that? Before we get too deep.
We'll get into it. There's a lot of research on this. But even the ones that are monogamous, it's still a sliding scale, right? Like, Catholics will be like, well, we're monogamous. And I'm like, okay, like, the height of Catholic culture is like Louis XIV's court, and he had constant courtesans. Like, the monogamy is always a sliding scale, which means that the very wealthiest people in a society, it's kind of understood they're going to have additional partners. We can pretend like they don't, and they can be a bit shamed for it, but they typically always do. It reminds me of that South Park episode where they try to figure out why wealthy men, like all the scientists, like, I just don't understand why wealthy men, when sleep with women, find women other than their wives attractive. Like, why they, like, this is such a mystery, and all the scientists are like, yeah, just something must be deeply wrong with them. But anyway, where this gets interesting is, so what I'm pointing out here is a question in a society. There's no such thing as a truly monogamous society. There are societies where you have to be wealthier to sleep with other people, and societies where you don't have to be quite so wealthy to sleep with other people before anybody cares. And you see this across the most conservative societies in history when they're super wealthy. Anyway, we have an episode called "When Did the Jews Become Monogamous?" Because this is an interesting question as it relates to Christianity. Because Christianity, there are a couple lines that could be read as promoting monogamy.
By the way, what he's been saying, I just want to summarize everything because he just yapped for over 2 minutes. Okay. Basically, what he's saying here is women want Chad. Okay, that's what he's saying. Women want Chad.
It's very, very clear in the Old Testament that
women want Chad.
Not polyamory, but polygyny, right? Like, people had multiple wives all the fucking time.
This is where I guess this is what caused the debate. Is I was talking to a Christian friend named Celestium, and I was asking, like, where is it said that it's bad, like in the Bible, or is it like an interpretation?
And by the way, this is what I dislike about Base Camp more so than someone like Mentis Wave, okay? Because Mentis Wave is a libertarian, right? He's like a, facts and logic type of conservative. But he'll just say it, he'll just say, like, women want Chad, they don't want beta males, okay? That's just reality, libtard. But Base Camp will take real facts about, like, humans in nature, anthropology, right? Like theoretical anthropology as well. And, he'll just, like, twist it. Just fucking twist it. Okay, monogamy, it has never been a natural phenomenon with humans. Okay, ever. It has only ever been a social construct. And what I mean by that is humans in pre-society did not form monogamous relationships. But that doesn't mean that they had multiple partners. Okay, hold on, stay with me here. Okay, most humans in the wild would have a partner and they would raise a child together for around until the kid was like 3 to 5 years old. And then one of the parents would fuck off. Alright, that's what would happen. And they would go find a new partner. And then one parent would be left to raise the kid, but they would do it like in collaboration with their group. Right, their larger group. But that's usually what would happen. That's my understanding of it, though. I'm not an anthropologist. But anyway,
right.
Let's keep
There's a
going.
few lines that could be read that way, and there's a few lines that could be read other ways. Well, actually, one of the places where this is the biggest problem is for Catholics. So, if you're aware, in Timothy, there's a line, to become one, that's about, like, obviously you don't become one with a person when you have sex with them, you become one because you have a child. Like, that's what that's talking about, is impregnating them and then becoming one person in the form of a child.
See, this is what I mean, though. It's interpretation-based, right? Because
interpretation-based, but that's not interpretation. I think it's, I'm not one with my wife and I'm having sex with her, we're performing an act, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean, though. It's interpretation-based, so it's like, when people say, well, that means that you can't, that polygamy is bad, it's, like, that's your interpretation.
When people are like, it's a sin. If it was a sin, right, if having multiple wives was a sin, given how common it was in the Old Testament, you think God would have spelled it out incredibly clearly in the New Testament, right? Like, and some of the problems we have...
What do you mean by it's an act?
Are lines like in Timothy, right? Yeah. So in Timothy, we have the line that says, like, in no uncertain terms, no one who doesn't have a wife should be in a church leadership position. And this is a problem for Catholics because, like, obviously their entire leadership cast is celibate and doesn't have wives. And so the way that they reinterpret that line is they say, well, the important word there is a wife, right? And this is warning against having people in church leadership positions with multiple wives.
Wait, is it different in, like, the Hebrew? Like, that's what I thought it meant. That's not what it meant?
No, it clearly means that you shouldn't be in a position of leadership in the church if you're not happily married, because people without a stake in the future and kids shouldn't be in leadership positions at all.
That's interesting.
Like, that's obvious, right? Like, I think it's very obvious that, like, I would not take advice from a theologian that wasn't married and had kids. But anyway, or at least married and in, like, a satisfying relationship. But anyway, the point here being is this becomes a problem, because if you say a wife, right, everything else in that qualifying paragraph is like normal stuff for the community, like members in the community, which means that line in Timothy is applying that there are many people in these early Christian congregations that have multiple wives.
Yeah.
They're just not supposed to take on leadership positions, right? Otherwise, that line makes absolutely no sense if you interpret it that way. So we can assume that in the early Christian community, there were likely people with multiple wives. So the question is when did the norm of monogamy hit Judaism, which, as it evolved into Christianity? It was really the Romans. The Romans cheated on their wives pretty frequently, like they had concubines and stuff like that, but they at least had an ideal of multiple wives. And the ideal was so strong. In our episode on like, when did the Jews become monogamous, we actually argue that monogamy was already normal in Jewish communities by the time Jesus came around. And that's why Jesus doesn't preach against multiple wives, because it just wasn't common during his time period for a man to have multiple wives. So he never needed to say it. He never needed to talk about it. It never came up. It was assumed you only had one wife. Even though in the Old Testament we see people having multiple wives all the time. But that wasn't
those were also, like, leaders, right? Like, a lot of the people in the Old Testament that had multiple, they were considered, like, the leaders of, like, the Israelites, right?
Well, they're leaders, historically.
So why didn't they
have like 1,000 wives?
Yeah, so if it was why was that not? I guess that was my question. Is like if that's
Why
the
was
case,
it was phased out because they were colonized by the Romans who oppressed them and eradicated their savage ways. No, sorry, colonizers don't eradicate savagery in native populations. The Romans brought their oppressive ideas of monogamy and treating your wife well.
what I meant though is,
anyway.
wouldn't that have been explicitly stated as to be a sin? Because they're the leaders, right? If they were the leaders of the
Dude, I don't understand how these people fucking admire the Roman system, especially in like I kind of admire the fall of Rome, like in how majestically it fucking burned to the ground. Okay, that was awesome, right? Metaphorically, anyway. Rome didn't really burn, right? Rome didn't really fall. Okay, not from the perspective of, you know, the entire constituency. But anyway, I had a point with this. Oh yeah. The Roman Empire, the social hierarchy, as many innovations as the Romans brought to the world, which, I mean, honestly, relative to most empires, was eh. The Romans, they had a really fucked up hierarchy, and like the whole social system was just really like not good. Okay, you had the enslaved people on the bottom, right, and like they would like make them kill each other and stuff in gladiator fights sometime, I mean, depending on the era we're talking about. And you know, he's right. There was a lot of homosexuality going on. It's just that it was all like coercive. Okay, in the Roman system. Like homosexuality was permitted for certain people. It was tolerated. But like you know what I'm saying is like there was homosexuality in Roman society, but not really. Okay, not really. Not like free love or whatever. Not like if you were just a regular person and you were like gay and you wanted to be gay, they'd probably fucking kill you. Okay, that would be like fucked up to your village. They would think you're like a demon or something. Okay, but you know, if you were of a certain class, you were allowed to be gay in like certain ways. Okay, so you could like have a concubine, right? You could like coerce a young boy into like doing sex stuff with you, and it's just really fucked up. Okay, and you know, Jesus Christ, you know, the Jesus Christ, he basically looked at all that and he was like, huh, this is like really fucked up. Like, I need to like tell people like that this is fucked up somehow. and that's basically what he did. And these dumbasses here are like, oh yeah, oh well, Rome was actually like awesome. It's actually awesome. I am a Christian man. I promote good Christian values. Like, yeah, okay, man. All right, very cool.
And like, why wouldn't that be specifically named as a sin if it were, right? To be like, you know, those people that did it, that were the leaders, were bad.
Right, but so he doesn't say that historically. Because presumably in the communities in which it was just rare, it was only wealthy people. Roman society shamed it anyway. So he said, like, making fun of Jews being persecuted by the Romans. Jews were absolutely persecuted by the Romans. I mean, Jews did some absolutely d-bag stuff to the Romans as well. They were one of the most rebellious of the provinces. That's why they had to keep being handled. If you want to watch a good thing on Roman history, watch Unbiased History. I think that's what it's called. You've seen that, right? Please say it's one of the best YouTube channels ever.
I have.
What did they do?
Unbiased History is just amazing, and he goes through Roman history from like a Roman perspective, and he's like super Roman jingoisticy about it. Hold on, I'm just gonna look this up to make sure I'm saying the channel right because I want to promote this guy.
Unbiased History.
Whenever he's talking about Unbiased History of Rome, whenever he's talking about the Jews,
Rome was totally justified. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
And he does this for everyone else, like the Scythians. When he talks about my ancestors, like the Brits and the Celts and stuff like that, he portrays them as like the Wojak meme was like the indent in their head. They're like barbaric. But anyway, yeah, he's fantastic. But anyway, so
you got him.
They're talking about the Jews, yes. So now to the question of, so basically my point here being, if it's not super called out in the Bible, there are interpretations, like thematic interpretations, like two become one. You know, like Jesus is to the fathers, like the wife is to her husband, or like weird, you know, all of this stuff, right? But like in terms of like explicit call outs, we don't really have any. That said, it doesn't seem to work at a societal level very well. there's a great study called like A Question of Monogamy or something that looks at equivalent cultures in Africa where we can see otherwise similar cultures that are monogamous and polygynous, you know, many wives living next to each other. And what we see in the polygynous societies is that they have much higher rates of rape, they have much higher rates of cheating in business transactions, they have much higher rates of prostitution, they have much higher rates of terrorism. Just basically all societal ills are at much higher rates in these societies.
That's because of men, right? Like men being locked out of reproduction.
Yeah. Yeah. When a man can't reproduce, like their biology goes for broke, right? Like, and so that's not good for society. It also lowers the number of kids a society can have. Like it reduces overall reproductive rates, which I think is surprising to people.
Really?
But like consider, I'll make an extreme example, which will immediately show you why it does. Okay, so suppose in a society only 50% of men get a wife, right? And a lot of those men are getting like 5 or 6 wives, right? And then 50% of men aren't getting any wives at all. Like even though those men have less money, they can still raise like 3 or 4 kids on a pretty low budget, right? But once you have like 5 or 6 wives and every one of those wives has 2 kids, you really don't care about having more kids at that point.
Yeah.
It leads to lower reproductive rates as well.
Less people to shoulder the burden.
Yeah. And then there's the additional thing that certain groups seem genetically optimized for these kinds of relationships, whereas other groups are not. It depends on how long they've had them, right? Groups that have been monogamous for long periods in history typically, I do not think have an easy time adapting to being one of many wives.
Wasn't there? Didn't you talk about there being an interesting, like an interesting, what was the word for it? Like a fact, like a trait that was passed on that in like Mormon circles where like they like being cucked.
Yeah. So Mormon circles, cucking is like really common. I mean, obviously there's a huge cucking scandal from the Mormon wives community where it turned out they all did like cuck parties and stuff. Yeah. So the question is why is cucking more common in Mormon communities? It could be an evolved trait because they used to have multiple wives. That I mean, just think about it from an evolutionary level. If you have like 4 or 5 wives and one of those wives is like really averse to the idea of sleeping with you when you're with another wife, or even it's going to cause problems for you when you're sleeping with another wife, she'd have fewer children than the women who didn't have that problem. And given that no man had multiple whatevers, there was no like evolutionary pressure for men to not be into this because it just never would have happened naturally in a historic Mormon community. And so you might have had this selected for at a higher rate, and that could explain why. Again, like none of this stuff is intrinsically negative. It's just like it's a thing, right? Like we know about this giant cucking scandal, right? Like no other religious community that I'm aware of has a cucking scandal. Like evangelical Christians have a problem with like being gay sometimes, but I've never heard of a cucking scandal in anything other than the Mormon community.
Was it the idea that the trait that the wives had was passed on to even male children?
Somebody said the secret life of Mormon. Well,
wait, being gay sometimes. I don't think that's the only scandal that they... You are, like, really downplaying evangelical scandals, man. Like, first of all, evangelicals be pedophiles, okay? Not just gay. If they were just gay, then... I mean, don't get me wrong. It is really funny when they're gay, because they're extremely homophobic, typically. But evangelicals also support genocide overseas. Okay. That's it.
Yeah, it may not be the LDS Church, but they're descended from LDS Church members. So if anything was genetically selected for in those populations, it would exist. Anyway, sorry, what was your question, Leaflit?
I was just saying, wasn't it because the trait from the women was being passed on to even male?
Male because we've been selective against it going to male offspring. Again, I like Mormons, guys. I'm not like an anti-Mormon person. I'm just trying to like call it like I see it, right? Like, I have said that my community, right? If you look at the fetishes that are unusually large within the backwoods community, you can look at like West Virginia, right? Like, oh, where does it peak in terms of fetishes? Incest and vor, right? Like very large experience.
You're not anti-Mormon?
Why?
Why are you not anti-Mormon, man?
Raped and eaten.
What is the vor? How does that work?
Aren't you a Christian?
What is the point of that one? Like, is it like could it just be just a thing? Well, hold on, wait. But if it's within the community, like, is it?
I'm anti-Mormon. Sorry, Mormons. All right, if you're Mormon, it's like chill. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna like act like I like Mormonism though. Like, you know, believe what you want. As soon as you start trying to, as soon as you start like abusing your children because of it, I think that's fucked up. Okay. That's
like a mimetic trait, or is it wouldn't be passed down DNA?
It's probably a mix-up of signals tied to hunting in communities that are generally very aggressive. It could also be tied to wiping out local populations. As I pointed out, you know, the communities that integrated with local populations instead of eradicating them typically had long-term negative ramifications from this. A great example of this can be the Catholics generally when they immigrated into the New World, they integrated with native populations, mostly through rape, but they integrated nonetheless. This is like Latin America and stuff like that. And that's why about a third of the Latin American genetic pool is native population. And if you look at the Americas, the Protestant populations, they didn't do that typically. They would just eradicate the local populations.
So as we're talking about, right, when did Jews remove polygamy, basically, right? They removed it basically about 300 years before Jesus. Is basically the, and it wasn't there. It was the colonizers who made them remove it, and they've done well since then. But like you know, so they're you know like technically against it now. I will note here that like my take on all this, because I got married to Simone, and we were like far lefties when we got married.
So like by the sort of rules that like she laid out for me when I got married to her is like I'm allowed to sleep with other women if I want to, right? Like
It's like a contract or like a.
yeah, we have a big marriage contract.
Oh, okay.
All of the rules and norms of the relationship. But it's just an enormous waste of time. Like I got 5 kids. Like why would I do that? Do you know how like do you know how long it takes to hit on somebody? And then you've got all of the negative externalities after that.
Yeah.
And what do you get out of it? Sex? Like that's not that great. I got a computer, guys. Like chill the fuck out.
Dude, once they have like a what do you call it, like dive VR, it's gonna be crazy. Like none of, like, dude, people are gonna stop reproducing. People be like, wait, you mean like I could be fulfilling like my maximal like fantasy in VR land? Like why would I want to do that? They're gonna be sleeping with their anime waifus.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the whole morality then of polygamy? Do you feel like
I think morality should be judged by the end outcome of something, and I think that polygyny, sleeping with multiple people, is just a giant waste of time unless you're super rich. And if you're super rich, then you should have multiple stable relationships at best. You know, like if Elon wanted to care for 4 wives, fine, right? But he needs to explain the rules to all the wives, fully support all the wives, and they live on his compound, right? Like not this like I just move around thing, right? I don't support that, right? At my level of income, 1 wife is obviously moral. It would just be a giant waste of time to have additional wives.
Damn, I was gonna say that. I forgot. I'm thinking about. Okay, so does the morality of it change? Like, let's say in a case where we have World War III and almost all of the dudes are eradicated, then does it become moral?
Obviously, like, and this is the thing. This is why flexible. This is why the Bible didn't go out and say you shouldn't do this, because there are obviously like fringe scenarios where it makes sense, right?
Yes. This is my question for. I asked my Christian friend that is like, does it change then, right? Do we just die or do we allow it, right? And I think a lot of them said no, you just die. And I was like, I don't get that. That doesn't make sense, right? Like.
Somebody said your morality changes based on your income. No, my morality doesn't change based on my income, because what's moral to me isn't having lots of wives or not having lots of wives.
Yeah.
It's what's the end effect of that. That's what's moral to me.
That's what I was talking about with. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, say what you were gonna say.
Well, I was gonna say that's what I meant, by the way, with stellar humanism, about how all the morality can be checked by whether or not it advances humanity and preserves humanity. Is that?
Yeah, no, if I was in an anime
be amorphous?
world, obviously I go for the all the wives path in the Otome game, right? You know, but that's an Otome game, right? Where it's a game, it's fictionalized, right?
Yeah, because the idea is that if all of the men die except for like a couple, then like the only way to like really repopulate quickly is for everyone to have multiple wives, or to have like, you know, to impregnate all the women basically. Otherwise you're not gonna rebuild that at the same rate. And on top of that, you're gonna lead to a lot of like sad women, right? So it's kind of like it's like is like just sitting down and dying as a, you know, as humans, is that worth it? I don't really think that's worth it.
No, it's obviously not.
Yeah.
Like humanity's kind of doing that right now because they can't, you know, motivate the next generation or whatever, which is really sad. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, and I think that this is so much more powerful for like my kids, right? Like when I tell my kids like don't sleep around, like the previous generation was like it's naughty. I'm like it's a waste of time, right? Like that's such a better argument.
You get like a practical reason as like why, and then it sticks more that way.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for a lot of this, like these
Right,
kinds of rules and stuff like
right.
this, they matter if you have like third world intelligence, right? Sorry, don't mean to be too spicy here, and you just need a bunch of rules.
Don't
to
be a
live your life.
whore.
But like for people I think like my kids, right? They need an explanation for the rules that makes sense, right?
Damn. That video was a big waste of time, but I watched it anyway.